Hi guys, Miss Katie here, and today we are going to read a book that is nonfiction, meaning it is not a made-up story, it is a true story, and is a kind of nonfiction book called a biography. And this book is I Am Jane Goodall. It is about this scientist, Jane Goodall, who did a lot of studies with chimpanzees. And this book is written by Brad Meltzer and is illustrated by Christopher Eliopoulos. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Of course, illustrated means that he did the pictures. I am Jane Goodall. I am Jane Goodall. Where does it look like she is? I think that's probably the jungle, by all those vines and the leaves and the trees is very, very thick. On my first birthday, my father bought me a cuddly toy chimpanzee named Jubilee. I loved Jubilee. I mean, loved. I used to carry Jubilee with me everywhere. As I got older, when I line up all my toys and play teacher, Jubilee was the only one that had his own chair. I didn't just love my toy chimpanzee, though. I loved all the animals, even the earthworms I found in the garden. Oh my. Mom told me to put the worms would be safer in the garden, so we took them outside and buried them back at their home. Ugh, I wouldn't want worms in my bed. Yeah, I think her mom's right. They belong outside. At 5 years old, I was curious to learn how chickens lay eggs, so I crawled into my grandmother's hen house to watch. Then I decided to crouch in the corner. If I had moved, the hens would have run away. I was patient, though. Patient. That means to wait. Finally, after all the hours of waiting, I saw what I was looking for. The hen gave a little wiggle, and plop! There was an egg. It was my first research project. In addition to the animals, I also love nature. I named the chestnut tree Nookie and the beech tree named Beech. Beech was my favorite. Oh, and another thing that I loved was reading. Back then, my family didn't have a lot of money to get books. We went to the library. When I was 7 years old, I got a book that would change my life. It was called The Story of Dr. Dolittle. She made herself earn reading for it. I read it once, then I read it again, then I read it a third time before I had to go back to the library. It was about a man who could talk to animals. Wonder what animals would say to us if they could talk. In the book, there was a parrot who says that if you want to learn how animals talk, you need the power of observation. But what I remember most is the part where Dr. Dolittle and his animal friends are being chased and they come to a cliff. Right there, the monkeys joined hands and feet and became a bridge. Isn't that beautiful? We can accomplish anything by working together. Look at that. They link together, working together to make a bridge. After reading the book, I vowed that I would go to Africa and live amongst the animals. By the time I was 12, I had my own nature group, the Alligator Club. My friends and I raised money to help old horses. We took nature walks and wrote down what we saw. At least I did. And if you wanted to have a high rank in the club, was I the best student? Not really. On school days, it was hard for me to wake up. I can relate to that. I didn't like being indoors, but if we were outside and the animals were around, that's when I got excited. I wanted a job where I could learn more about animals. But back then, if you were a girl, people didn't think you could be a scientist. Say what? They expected girls to become nurses, secretaries, or teachers. But I wanted to go to Africa. I wanted to study animals. Luckily, my mom always told me, if you really want something, work hard for it. And don't give up. You'll find a way. I had never forgotten that. Soon I had my chance. One of my school friends invited me to visit her family in Kenya. To pay for the trip, I worked as a waitress and hid my money under the carpet. One day, I closed the curtains, I counted it all, and it was enough. The trip took 21 days by boat. Whoa, 3 whole weeks on one boat, that's a lot. I was 23 years old. It all seemed like a dream until I saw a giraffe who stared directly at me. It had dark eyes, long lashes, and a black tongue, and it was chewing acacia thorns. I knew my dream was coming alive. Finally, I was in the Africa of Dr. Dolittle. Look how beautiful that sunset is. 2 months later, my life changed again. Someone told me, if you're interested in animals, you must meet Dr. Leakey. He was an anthropologist, which means he studied how humans live, and also a paleontologist, which means he studied fossils and bones. At first, he hired me as a secretary, but he was quickly impressed about what I knew about animals, including his own pets. Eventually, Dr. Leakey told me about a new job studying chimpanzees up close. He said going into the forest would be hard, it would be dangerous. But if we could find out how chimps live today, we learn more about our own prehistoric ancestors and how they used to live. For a year, I read everything I could about chimpanzees. I was also told that women couldn't be alone in the forest. They said I needed a guide, plus a companion. My mom offered to come, and I was ready. I'll never forget that day, July 16, 1960, the day I first set foot in what was today Gombe National Park in Tanzania, Africa. At 26 years old, I had finally made it to the home of the chimpanzees. It was a place that would change my life. Wow, see how she has her arms stretched out, kind of like she's looking up into the deep, dark forest? How do you think she's feeling? I think she's probably feeling excited, maybe a little scared, maybe elated. She's so happy to finally get to the place she's waiting so long to get to. During one of my first explorations, we saw two chimpanzees eating in a tall tree. They noticed us and ran away. The next day, we didn't see any chimps. There were no chimps the day after that either. For months, I tried to get close, but they kept running away. Then I started going alone, just me, into a high area called the Peak, and looked down with my binoculars. In time, I saw that the chimpanzees would hang out in groups of 6 or fewer. The female chimps would be with the children, and the male chimps would be with one another. They weren't mindless animals. It was a community. Community, I've heard that name before. What is a community? A community is a group of people, or in this case chimpanzees, that live and work together. And communities can be different. Like, you can be a part of the community that you live in, like on your street or neighborhood, or you can be part of your community, like in the classroom. Like, our classroom is its own community, or if you want to broaden that a little bit, the community of your whole school itself. Still, it took nearly a year before I could get within 100 yards of the chimpanzees. One day, I came back to camp and found out. One of the male chimpanzees took our food, including our bananas. That's fantastic. Maybe he'll be back tomorrow. The next day, I waited and waited. There was no sign of the chimpanzees. Then, at 4 p.m., I heard a noise by my tent. Look at that shadow. It was a large male chimpanzee with a thick beard. David Graybeard. She gave him a name. That was the name I gave him. Back then, people told me there was a certain way to study animals. I shouldn't give chimpanzees names. They said animals were supposed to have numbers, not names. Well, why? Then, they thought animals didn't have personalities or emotions. They thought if we gave them names, we'd start pretending they were like us. Well, I don't know about you, but the animals I've met, they have different personalities. But that's what no one realized. They were like us. That day, David Graybeard took my nuts and my bananas. A month later, he took one out of my hand. Even later, out in the forest, he slowly approached me and checked if I had a banana in my pocket. It was one of my most proudest moments. The chimpanzees now understood I wasn't a threat. That means they knew she wasn't there to hurt them. I was their friend, and they were mine. Over time, by seeing the chimpanzees as individuals, I could truly understand them. David was calm, though he liked getting what he wanted. Goliath was easily excited. William was shy, and Old Flo was a strong mother, and always bringing her daughter and son. As I watched, I learned one of the coolest things of all. One day, I saw David Graybeard stripping leaves from a twig, and then sticking the twig in a termite hole. He wasn't just using the twig as a tool, he made the tool. Before that, scientists thought only humans could make tools. There was no doubt now that these animals were intelligent. Intelligent, that means very smart. Every night I write in my journal about what I observed, and every day I saw the chimpanzees doing the same thing. Holding hands, tickling, kissing, even patting backs to reassure one another. You know, oh, it's all right, friend. The more I observed, the more I learned. Soon I had so much information I needed a tape recorder. Then I needed an assistant to help observe all the other chimpanzee families in the forest. 6 years later, what started with a notepad and binoculars became a full research center. Now I was the one in charge. Today, thanks to our work in Tanzania, the whole world knows that animals have their own personalities and complex relationships. In my life, people told me there was a certain way to do things, a certain way to study animals, and a certain way girls should behave. Well, they told me to follow the rules. Instead, I followed my gut. I mean, she followed what she was feeling inside. In your life, it'll be easy to see how others are different from you, but there's so much more to gain if instead you see how alike we are. All of us, all living things, share so much. We have so many things in common, more things than we realize. When we realize and we look out for each other, that's the most beautiful way to live together. I am Jane Goodall, and I see so much that we have in common. Watch, observe, be patient. It'll teach you this. We don't own this earth, we share it. Listen to the feelings in your heart. We are responsible for the animals around us. We must take care of them. When one of us is in trouble, be it human, creature, or nature itself, we must reach out and help. When we do, we build a bridge that will carry all of us. The end. And there's some pictures of the real Jane Goodall. There she is. Is that with David Graybeard? I think that might be. Looks like it might be. There she's a picture of him. There's some older black and white photos. Up there, the chimpanzees reaching out to her. The end. There's a lot that we can learn from Jane Goodall. She taught us that, number one, just because someone tells you you can't do something just because you're a girl, because you're short, because you're a boy, because you can't do that because you look a certain way or you live in a certain place. That's not true. You can do anything you set your mind to, and that's in your heart. And also, when we care for each other, including people, our family, animals, those around us, and our environment, we can all work together to make the world a better place. So I challenge you today to think of what is one way that you can work together or help someone else out to make the world a better place. Because I'll tell you a secret. Some of the happiest times you'll have is when you are helping each other. All right, that's all I have for today. I love you, my friends, and I will see you virtually next time. Bye.